always been eager for there to be more gingers in tennis. So how does it feel to be part of this tribe now?
It feels good. I thought it would help me out, considering there's another ginger doing really well. So maybe it'll give me some luck because he has a pretty good record here and I don't. So we'll see.
Coco Gauff just showed up to the Australian Open with a completely new look, rocking reddish hair that has everyone talking. And when a reporter asked her about joining the redhead club in tennis, her answer was absolutely hilarious. She straight up admitted she's trying to copy Jannik Sinner's success by stealing his hair color. This is peak athlete superstition. Do you believe in sports superstitions like copying someone's hairstyle for luck? Or is this just Coco having fun with the media? Let me know what you think. So Coco Gauff walked into her Australian Open press conference with a brand new look. She's been rocking reddish-tinted hair since the start of the season, which is a pretty dramatic change from her usual style. Most players would just ignore questions about their appearance and focus on tennis, but not Coco. When a journalist asked what it felt like to join the group of redheaded players in tennis, specifically referencing Jannik Sinner, she gave an answer that's both funny and surprisingly honest. She said, "I thought it might help, considering there's another redhead who's doing very well. Maybe it'll bring me luck because he has a very good record here, unlike me. We'll see." Let's unpack how absolutely wild this statement is, because Coco Gauff, one of the top 3 players in women's tennis, just publicly admitted she changed her hair color, hoping it would give her Jannik Sinner's winning powers at the Australian Open. First of all, the fact that a journalist even thought to ask this question is pretty funny. Someone looked at Coco's new hair, looked at Jannik Sinner's naturally reddish hair, and decided this was a connection worth exploring in a professional press conference. And instead of giving some boring answer about wanting a change or liking the color, Coco leaned fully into the absurdity and admitted she's essentially trying to channel Sinner's energy through hair dye. For context, Jannik Sinner won the Australian Open last year and has been absolutely dominant on hard courts. He's currently ranked #1 in the world and is one of the favorites to win the tournament again this year. His record at Melbourne Park is legitimately impressive. So from a purely superstitious standpoint, if you're going to copy someone's look hoping their success rubs off on you, Sinner's not a bad choice.
Coco, good luck for the Australian Open. I know
you.
you were speaking lightheartedly before about your hair, but you made the comment, "I haven't done very well here."
Yeah.
You've got a semi-final and a quarter-final on your resume. How difficult is it to walk away satisfied when you've won Grand Slam titles when you don't win one at a
Yeah, it is crazy. Like, I guess, yeah, I should be proud of the semifinal result here. But I was explaining this actually to my friend, and I was just like, yeah, you just don't, after like winning, nothing feels as satisfying like as that. I think the only thing that I would be satisfied with is making a quarterfinal at Wimbledon because I've lost like 4th round so many times. So I think that would be like the only non-win result I would be completely satisfied. It doesn't mean I'm not proud of myself if I like lose, and even the year I lost in the semis, I was proud of that tournament. I think it's just more the satisfying feeling is 2 different feelings. But I am always generally proud of myself in most tournaments, even if I don't do well.
But let's talk about Coco's self-awareness in that answer, because she specifically mentioned that Sinner has a very good record at the Australian Open, unlike her. That's a pretty brutal self-assessment. Coco Gauff is ranked 3rd in the world, she won the US Open, she's been a top player for years now. But her results at the Australian Open specifically have been disappointing relative to her talent level. She's never made it past the 4th round in Melbourne. For someone of her caliber, that's a legitimate weakness in her resume. So when she says she's hoping the hair color brings her luck because Sinner's record at this tournament is better than hers, she's not joking around. She's acknowledging a real gap in her Grand Slam results and trying anything, even something as ridiculous as copying someone's hair color, to break through. The whole thing is peak athlete superstition, which is one of the most entertaining aspects of professional sports. Athletes at the highest level will do absolutely anything they think might give them even a tiny mental edge. Wearing the same socks, eating the same pre-match meal, listening to the same warm-up playlist, apparently dyeing your hair to match a champion's natural color. None of it makes logical sense, but sports psychology is weird, and if believing something helps you perform better, then it functionally works regardless of whether it's rational. What makes this particularly funny is that Coco's not even hiding it. She could have deflected the question or given a vague answer about wanting to try something new. Instead, she straight up said she's copying Jannik Sinner, hoping his success transfers to her through shared hair color. That's either peak confidence or peak desperation. And honestly, it might be both. There's also something kind of charming about a top 3 player in the world being this open about her struggles at a specific tournament. Coco could have just said she likes the new look and moved on. But she chose to acknowledge that her Australian Open record isn't where she wants it to be, and she's willing to try unconventional methods to change that pattern. That level of honesty is rare in professional tennis, where most players give carefully crafted answers designed to reveal as little as possible. Now let's address the elephant in the room, which is that copying someone's hair color obviously has zero actual impact on tennis performance. Coco Gauff is an elite athlete because she's incredibly talented, works harder than almost anyone, has excellent coaching, and possesses the mental toughness to compete at the highest level. Her results at the Australian Open have nothing to do with her hair, and everything to do with matchups, form, mental approach, and sometimes just bad luck in the draw. But here's the thing about superstitions. They don't have to be real to be useful. If Coco genuinely believes that channeling some of Jannik Sinner's energy through reddish hair gives her confidence, then that confidence becomes a real performance factor. The placebo effect is powerful in sports. If an athlete believes something will help them, that belief can actually translate into better performance, even if the thing itself is completely meaningless. Professional athletes deal with enormous pressure. The mental game is often more important than the physical game at the highest levels where everyone is talented and well-trained. So if dyeing your hair a certain color helps you feel more confident or relaxed or focused, then it's serving a legitimate purpose even if the mechanism is purely psychological. What's also interesting about this whole situation is the cross-pollination between men's and women's tennis that it represents. Tennis fans love to create these narratives about players from different tours interacting or influencing each other. And here's Coco Gauff explicitly saying she's taking inspiration from the men's #1 player, specifically his success at the tournament where she struggled. There's something wholesome about that. Instead of staying in her lane and only focusing on women's tennis, Coco's looking at the entire sport and trying to learn from whoever's succeeding at the things she wants to achieve. Sinner's crushing it at the Australian Open, so she's going to find some way, even a silly one, to connect herself to that success. The reference to there being more redheads in tennis is also kind of hilarious because it's not like tennis has a huge redhead population that Coco's now joining. This isn't like basketball where being tall is actually relevant. Hair color has nothing to do with tennis ability. But the journalist asked the question and Coco ran with it, creating this whole narrative about joining the redhead club and hoping it brings her Sinner's winning record. Let's also talk about the actual strategic side of Coco's Australian Open struggles, because beneath the humor of the hair situation, there's a real tennis problem she's trying to solve. Her game is built on incredible athleticism, consistent baseline play, and mental toughness. But at the Australian Open specifically, she's run into players who can match her power and outlast her in long rallies. The conditions in Melbourne favor big hitters with good serve and huge ground strokes. Coco has those weapons, but so do a lot of other players. And when she's faced opponents who can go toe-to-toe with her in that style, she's struggled to find another gear. That's a technical and tactical challenge that has nothing to do with hair color and everything to do with developing additional dimensions to her game. But solving those technical problems takes time, practice, and probably some tactical adjustments with her coaching team. Dyeing your hair takes a couple hours at a salon. So if the hair thing gives Coco a mental boost while she's working on the deeper issues with her Australian Open performance, then it's a harmless and potentially helpful addition to her preparation. The self-deprecating humor in her answer is also worth highlighting. Coco's ranked 3rd in the world, she's won a Grand Slam, she's been incredibly successful, but she's comfortable enough to publicly joke about needing luck and admitting her record at this tournament isn't good. That's the mark of someone who's secure in their abilities, but also realistic about their weaknesses. A lot of athletes would get defensive if asked about their struggles at a specific tournament. They'd talk about how they're focused on the present, how past results don't matter, how they're confident in their preparation. Coco just straight up said, yeah, my record here isn't great. So I'm trying anything, including copying the hair of the guy who's dominating this tournament. That's refreshing honesty. There's also something funny about the fact that Jannik Sinner has naturally reddish hair, while Coco had to dye hers to achieve the look. It's like she's trying to artificially acquire the powers that Sinner was born with. Obviously, that's not how anything works. but as a sports superstition narrative, it's pretty entertaining. And look, if this somehow works and Coco goes deep into the Australian Open or even wins the tournament, this press conference answer is going to become legendary. People will talk about how she manifested success by channeling Jannik Sinner's energy through hair color. It'll become one of those quirky sports stories that gets repeated forever. On the flip side, if she loses early, people are going to roast her for thinking hair dye could solve her Australian Open problems. That's the risk you take when you publicly commit to a superstition. If it works, you're a genius. If it doesn't, you look silly. But Coco seems comfortable with that risk, which again speaks to her confidence and willingness to be herself in public. The broader context here is that tennis players are under constant media scrutiny and pressure to say interesting things in press conferences. Most of the time, these sessions are boring because players give safe, generic answers. So when someone like Coco shows up with a new look and then gives a genuinely funny, honest answer about why she changed it, that's content gold for tennis media. Journalists are probably thrilled that she gave them this answer instead of just saying she wanted a change. Now they get to write articles about Coco copying Jannik Sinner's hair. Fans get to debate whether sports superstitions work. And the whole thing becomes a storyline that adds entertainment value to the tournament beyond just the matches. This is also the kind of personality-driven content that tennis needs more of. The sport sometimes gets criticized for players being too corporate, too boring, too unwilling to show their real personalities. Coco Gauff saying she dyed her hair to channel Jannik Sinner's winning energy is exactly the kind of authentic, entertaining content that makes fans actually care about players as people, not just as tennis-playing machines. Will the hair color actually help Coco at the Australian Open? Obviously not in any direct physical sense. But if it makes her feel more confident, if it gives her a mental narrative that helps her stay positive, if it becomes a fun story that takes some pressure off her shoulders, then yeah, maybe it helps in a weird, indirect way. So Coco Gauff is rocking reddish hair at the Australian Open and openly admitting she's trying to steal Jannik Sinner's winning powers through hair dye. It's peak athlete superstition, it's hilarious. And honestly, if it works, we'll never hear the end of it. If you enjoyed this breakdown of tennis's most entertaining press conference moment, hit that like button and subscribe for more content.